Ladies and gentlefish, today we're diving into some. Ugh, let me try that again. Today we are diving into some more lore. Okay, so today for lore, we're not doing The Simpsons. No. All right, we're diving into some shameless lore, both the U.S. and UK version of White Boy Carl. Um, White Boy Carl Gallagher to Cop is what this is called. Um, it is by Limo Pizza. Um, the link to the video will be in the description below. So let's dive into this lore, eh?
I think with television, we see most shows lean towards a middle class aesthetic, not only to appeal to the middle class, but also to give the working class something to aspire to. Then, from an upper class
Okay.
perspective, making them feel more in touch with the realities of everyday people. With the Gallaghers growing up in poverty, there were very limited options available to them, and it showed. In my debut video, I mentioned that in Shameless UK, Debbie Gallagher joins the military after leaving the household, but she was not the only sibling that worked for the government, as Manchester Carl also became a cop during the last few seasons of the UK series.
Okay.
Carl may be the only character in the UK series to have a somewhat similar ending to their character in the US series.
Because if I remember correctly, uh, Debbie, um, in the U.S. version did not was not like that at all. No, he had a kid. I'm pretty sure at the part that I was at, she was like getting her welding. Some I don't fucking know, but something to do with welding. I remembered that. 'Cause I think one of the last episodes I remember is her being under the table and shit and whatnot. I don't fucking know. Let's continue though. And hey, if you guys want me to watch a Debbie version of this, let me know. Let me know.
Only character in the UK series to have a somewhat similar ending to their character in the US series, even after 11 seasons of both shows. I want to take a side by side look at these two characters. Manchester Carl was in 109 out of 139 episodes, being the Gallagher child in the most episodes of the UK version. This
Okay.
right away shows that both Carls were pretty much always involved with the show in some way. However,
Yeah.
Carl's role in both versions starts out the smallest out of all the Gallagher children. I mean, even Liam is seen more because he's usually with Fiona or Debbie. When looking at birth order, Manchester
Makes
Carl was
sense.
supposed to be a year older than Debbie, but I can't lie. I always thought Debbie was a year older than Carl just based on maturity, which is funny because in the US version, they made Debbie a little over a year older than Carl. All that to say, Carl doesn't really have
I
many
mean, it makes sense
responsibilities
with the
early
change
on
though.
when everyone else is busy. Both Carls were the youngest boys for a while before Liam came along. So to their older siblings, they still tend to see Carl as the baby brother of the family. Because of this, Carl
Obviously,
in both
yep.
versions doesn't have to mature and he can enjoy his childhood a little bit longer than his other siblings, which is why I think he has a closer relationship with Frank for longer than the others and can brush off his wrongdoings. With Manchester Carl, he was actually played by twins Elliot and Luke Tinnenser before Elliot took over Carl in
Okay.
season 2. So in the first season, they would use both twins in the scene to demonstrate how wild Carl was and that he was essentially all over the place all the time. That way, you'd always see Carl somewhere in the scene, but he didn't necessarily have lines. This is similar
I
to
mean,
Carl's character in the first season of the US show,
that's
except it was
fucking.
only
Okay.
played by one actor. Whenever Chicago Carl was mentioned or was on screen, he was doing something wildly random. He was that kid. So with both Carls being these
That is
wild
true.
boys, we can see how they fit into the youngest son archetype on television. Usually Carl is shown acting out or being weird in a normalized way. In this, Carl got away with a lot of childish behavior because he usually wasn't a priority compared to the other criminal and urgent matters going on around the Gallagher household. Carl was old enough to take
For
basic care
that.
of himself, but not necessarily old enough to know better. Basically,
Yeah. So, watching uh Shameless, one of my favorite characters besides Lip was Carl. Carl was my second favorite. Lip was my favorite for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why I like Lip much.
The kids from Disney, Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network shows, but like living in poverty. One of the key differences between Manchester Carl and Chicago Carl is their toughness. Manchester Carl is tall for his age and looks older, but out of the Gallagher kids, he is the softest of the siblings. Manchester Carl actually finds a gun and fatally shoots his neighbor's husband, but he's totally petrified
What?
when it happens, and his siblings have to help him get away with it.
You, snap out of it or disappear.
I don't want her to go. Neither would I if I was in as much bother as you.
Tough shit, Carl. Fiona's going. Say one wrong word before she does and I'll cut your tongue out. Got it?
I kind of want to watch the UK version.
And that goes for all of you.
See the
If Fiona finds
differences.
out about Carl, you're all dead.
Penny, Fizz, Pete, and Minter. Debbie's explained it's for charity.
Hi, please.
Baldies! I'm kidding.
Square
Kidding.
one.
Which we see as a
Hair
repeated
grows
pattern
back.
with Carl early on. His brothers are also constantly making fun of him and looking down on his level of intelligence. They don't take him seriously, and this causes Carl to resent them sometimes.
Yeah,
How much is there? Not much.
alright, I'm in.
Nice one.
Yeah. I mean, they treated him
Why
like
do
a
you think we
younger
didn't wanna
brother.
do it,
That's
stupid?
what happens.
Piss off.
They just like to
People
mess
get
with
ditched
you.
and survive. Don't be so soft.
That's it.
It's not the first time, Deb.
I have to defend him. I'm an older brother, so.
Where'd you get the box? Cardboard box, Carl, about this big. Used to have an iron inside it.
Carl Gallagher has a bit.
Where did you get it from? It's important.
What the fuck?
Shut up, Carl. We just need to know.
More so Lip than Ian, but Lip also fit the lad archetype that was popular for boys in Manchester in the 90s and 2000s, which made him cool on the estate. Lad culture was generally defined by young British men or lads engaging with football, drinking beer, chatting up girls, and being boisterous. It's known to be similar to the 2000s, 2010s bro culture. Initially,
Okay.
Carl struggles to do the same like Lip does,
Bro
which
culture?
causes even further
What do you-
resentment, especially once Carl sees the way Lip treats girls.
Per day.
You bastard!
What's this an
I
ambush?
saw you with that skank Mandy Maguire.
So what?
That's who you've been seeing, innit? Her.
Seeing? Yeah.
You're a fucking disgrace, you are.
What's he got to do with you, twatted?
You're supposed to be going out with Emily.
The only reason I'm seeing Mandy is to see my kid. It's got nothing to do with Emily.
Didn't see you with a baby today, though. Why did you lie?
Lip has a kid in this one? I don't think he had a kid in the US version, did he? So this is something different. Because I'm pretty sure the kid in Lip's life in the US version was just uh what's her face, the blonde chick's kid. That was like half or Korean. Half Korean, I think.
He was going around Emily's every night if you're not shagging Mandy.
And
Why
then
did
she
you think it was
became
just what you said?
brain dead or
Manchester
some
Carl
shit.
grew from a child into a young adult without much drastic change outside of him going through puberty and slightly maturing, along with standing up for himself more. During this time, we can see Carl get better at being an older brother to Stella and Liam. Outside of his laddish behavior, Carl was actually quite decent. He wasn't necessarily a
Stella.
bad kid and had a good moral compass, but was still a teenage boy trying to understand the world around him and his relationship with others. Unlike Manchester Carl, who avoided getting into trouble for the most part,
So I don't think there was ever was there ever a Stella in the fucking US version? Uh, Oh, there is a Stella. Okay, so maybe I just didn't. Uh, yes, there was a character named Stella in the US version of Shameless. Actually, more than one across the series. The most prominent one is Stella Gallagher's and Halfsey introduced as a baby or child. Okay, so there was the Foster character in season 10 who interacts with Debbie, often mentioned alongside a sister named Bella. Okay. Okay. For context, in the original, there's also a Stella Gallagher, Frank and Monica's seventh born child, but the US version adapts and expands the family differently. Stella exists there too, just with some storyline variations. Okay, so I guess I just haven't gone that that deep into the lore or into Shameless itself. I'm guessing then. Okay.
moral compass, but was still atypically quite decent. He wasn't necessarily a bad kid and had a good moral compass, but was still a teenage boy trying to understand the world around him and his relationship with others. Unlike Manchester Carl, who avoided getting into trouble for the most part, Chicago Carl was trouble and wore it proudly.
Oh
Unlike
yes,
Manchester
he
Carl's
was.
early crimes being accidental, Chicago Carl intentionally tries to hurt people, like when he poisoned
Didn't
his
he join
cousin
a
Patrick.
gang too?
Nausea, shortness of breath, blood and urine.
Okay, but like he was kind of defending the household. Like I get it from his point of view at this time cuz from what I remember at this time period was the cousin or uncle or whatever the fuck he was trying to screw them over and take the house away from them. And so he was just uh cousin, sorry. Yeah, they were just he was just fucking with his cousin who are punishing him because he's just trying to take the house from under him or some shit like that, I believe.
Poisoned his cousin Patrick.
Nausea, shortness of breath, blood and
Although it's not
urine,
excusable,
severe
but
illness,
still.
and death.
What the hell are you reading?
Uh I think any bad thing Carl did was justified because he was doing it for the family or like for the best interest of the household or someone that is he that's a loved one to him, I think.
Rat poison.
However, where both Carls are alike is in their levels of intelligence. Carl was built as a quote unquote dumb character who wasn't that bright, so we very rarely see Carl had beef with any of his siblings for long periods of time. Both Carls channeled their anger outward to protect the Gallagher family, functioning
Yeah.
almost like guard dogs. The contrast between Carls couldn't be more different as they got older, as we see Manchester Carl soften and Chicago Carl harden. In Chicago, once Frank gets sick and Carl tries to help Frank get drugs to ease his pain, this is around the time Carl descends into the world of street crime, stealing, and dealing. Through this, we see Carl become a juvenile delinquent very quickly as he eventually gets caught and has to spend time locked up. Though
White
both
boy
Carls were fascinated
Carl.
with sex when they were younger, while Chicago Carl was going to juvie,
If you want to go into my chambers and speak to me off the record, now is the time. Otherwise, you will end up in juvenile prison.
Oh, you said something smart as fuck.
Is that what you want?
Or is that funny?
Yes, please.
There you go.
That's not what I was hoping to hear.
I know what you were hoping to hear. If Your Honor would lose 20 pounds, I would consider tapping that.
Manchester Carl was discovering his libido and
That's
sexual
fucking
attention.
hilarious.
As he was going through puberty, the girls weren't really into Carl. Despite looking mature and having good intentions,
You should be with someone who does stuff for you, gives you all the presents and stuff. You're gorgeous, and I know you understand stuff about people because you feel things, like what I do. There's all
You
the stuff I
feel
could talk to
things.
you about, stuff from my head.
Yeah, Carl, can you just fuck off?
Carl didn't have much of a personality,
Aw.
which made him one note. Eventually, everyone on the chats were, from older women to younger girls to Mickey, had a crush on Carl. All of his storylines that revolved around his jobs always end up leading to him hooking up with someone. This makes Manchester
That's
Carl
fucking
a peak
hilarious.
lad around the estate, and he
A
starts to get a
peak
certain type
lad.
of respect and attention for it. Turning to the south side, we see Chicago Carl transform in prison into what we know as peak white boy Carl. Now, in a similar way to how we see Manchester Carl took on lad culture because that was what he was around, Chicago
Yeah.
Carl took on hood culture because that was what he was around. The difference being lad culture was stereotypically for white boys, hood culture was stereotypically for black and brown.
Okay. So, and that's something I think the the story of Carl is basically the same. Like, I think that if U.S. Carl grew up in the UK, like the same area that UK Carl did, he would turn out the same way as UK Carl, and vice versa. I just think they're different because of their environment and how they grew up. Even though it's kind of similar, they grew up in different time periods and in different countries. So it was a lot of the fads or trends or whatnot are a lot different in the culture as well.
Boys. By Carl adopting this cultural aesthetic, he became the hood white boy, which we can see at its peak in the 2000s with white hip hop icons like Eminem and Paul Wall. So by the mid 2010s, when white boy Carl emerged, black culture was hyper visible in the mainstream. We see this also with the emergence of musicians like Mac Miller, rest in peace, Machine Gun Kelly, and most importantly, in this case, Post Malone.
Okay, I'm gonna say all wall still slaps, motherfucker. I don't care who you are. Oh man.
Post Malone had just released his debut hit single, White Iverson, in 2015, so by the time White Boy Carl was released from juvie, a lot of youth culture back then and even today walks the line of appropriation and appreciation. So White Boy Carl
Okay.
wasn't an exception.
I can take Carl.
Yeah, you can. All 8 inches.
All
I'm
ate it.
pimping like that. Feel me?
Pimpin'. I changed your diaper, so I know your little pudding pop ain't never been chocolate. I'm getting tired of this little minstrel act. You think cornrows make you black? 400 years of oppression makes you black. And if you keep up with this wiggle bullshit,
great.
I'm gonna reverse George
Ah,
Zimmerman your ass.
shit.
Feel me?
As a white kid growing up in a predominantly black area, Chicago Carl adopts the aesthetic of black culture as a survival tactic, not only in juvie, but in his neighborhood once he gets out. Growing up without a lot of positive male influences, both Carls lean on their local areas to shape their identities as boys, not only trying to become men, but men that are respected. As men
Exactly what I said. Exactly what I said. What did I say? It was for they got shaped from their environment, which I think was very well portrayed by each director or whatever the fuck producer, whoever you want to call it.
Manchester Carl gets older, and being a lad isn't enough for his girlfriend Maxine to keep their baby and stay with him. Carl realizes that by
Carl has
working
a
with the
baby.
Maguires, specifically Jamie Maguire, the leader of the Maguires' criminal enterprise, he can work to get the power and respect that he desires on the estate. But unlike the Maguires, Carl doesn't like to hurt people. Manchester Carl's never involved with anything violent, and for most of the time, he's just washing stolen cars. As much as the Maguires learn
Okay.
to love and care for Carl, they know he's not a criminal like the rest of them.
So I'm assuming how Lip kind of got into the car stealing shit with like Steve in the early seasons in uh the US version. Carl did as well in the UK version. So was it both Lip and Carl um in that business, or did Lip take the position of Carl because of how young he was in the show? Or this can be completely different and not even involve Steve or Jimmy or whatever the fuck you want to call him.
I've killed a man.
No, you haven't.
I have. I shot him, and his head fell off.
Well, good for you. So you come to have a pop at me then, have you? Come to prove yourself to the hard man. Well, come on then, if you want some. You want some?
Hmm?
So every time we see Carl given a big job, something always goes wrong. But similar to how Carl's siblings used to save him, we see the Maguires take on this role. Taken in the other direction, Chicago Carl feels powerful and
Okay,
respected amongst his
what
peers
the
and
fuck
family for
was
his money
that?
and status as
The
White Boy
audio kind of
Carl.
fucked up for a
Without
second.
heroes like Carl here driving our shadow economy, we would have gone the way of the dodo years ago. Hey, can I get a relocation advance?
A
Dominique
relocation
isn't impressed.
advance.
When
What
he
the
meets her
fuck?
father, who happens to be a cop, he isn't impressed
Yeah.
either. This bothers Carl as the hood respect that he had earned doesn't translate when he meets black people who are not about that life.
Same mom, same
True.
pops. Don't be calling me white all day, so I had to make a point, sir. Just because his skin is a little darker than mine ain't no reason to call a nigga white.
Oh
I'm gonna give
shit!
you a 10-second head
Oh
start. You
shit!
better run, boy, and take Shaq with you.
After Carl's friend Nick brutally attacks the guy who stole his bike, Carl realizes following the path he's on will lead him to death or prison. Carl wants to get out of the criminal life, but he's too valuable to the bosses and they won't let him go. Until he goes there with
Damn.
Fiona's fiance at the
Oh
time,
yeah.
Sean, who steps in as a father figure for
Doesn't
Carl
he
and
take
helps
like a
him get
beating
out
or
of a bad
something for
situation.
him?
Chicago Carl then spends more time with Dominic's dad, Luther, who becomes another important role model for Carl.
You still applying to cadet school?
I don't have the grades.
When I think about military school, look, I was a banger like you, from a hood like this, and all sorts of devious shit. You don't need all that shit dragging you down.
What I loved about this guy is that he was looking out for Carl, looking for the. At first, he hated him, and then he understood and kind of took him under his wing, which I thought was dope. Even though it's a show, come on. And then even after him and Dominique or whatever her name was broke up, excuse me, he was still the same way, just looking after him.
Not when you can sleep in a clean bed every night to the sound of nothing.
As he leaves the criminal life behind and enrolls into military school. We see both Manchester and Chicago Carl have multiple male influences that take the place of Frank and help to give them guidance as they try to figure themselves out.
Yeah.
You know what's really true? And what's to be admired, Carl? You've never hurt anybody in your life, have you?
Of course I fucking have. You kidding? Welsh taffy when I busted bullets. Spent a fortnight in hospital, ask anybody.
Yeah, that's because he threatened your Debbie and you wanted to hurt him back, sure.
I have no clue what they're saying half the time because of
Don't
how
think
thick
I
their
want to
accent is.
You should be really proud of that.
Cut out your puff.
Neither of us wants to hear me say this. You've your dad to thank for that.
In both shows, once Carl's adolescent persona
Oh my
starts to slip
god.
away and he wants something more than what is readily accessible to him, he's forced to figure out who he wants to be and how to gain proper respect through it.
20 applicants to clean dishes, and they tell me lack of experience. I'm unemployable. I can't make out, fix out. I won't even give me a job.
Oh dear, dry your eyes. There's a place in the workforce for everybody, Carl, even coconuts like you.
I do something that people are impressed by, and it needs to be around girls.
Even coconuts
So you
like
want
you.
a job that gets you laid, don't require you to think.
Suppose. And if I could travel, great. You'll see the world on that.
Uniform?
Ladies love a man in uniform.
I'll show yous. I'm gonna do something that gets me respect.
Since they
I'm
had
gonna
already
do
tried
something.
and failed to become men through breaking the rules, Carl was then left to consider why the rules are important. Looking at Frank, someone who broke the rules his entire life, it's clear as to why Carl would do a complete 180 and go in the opposite direction to avoid ending up like his father. As Manchester Carl is left with no real respect within the McGuire family business.
Join the family business?
That is funny, Carl. Because I just left.
I hope you know what you're getting yourself into.
So we fucking jump round here with any prospect.
You're a dickhead, Carl. Stupid.
Naive little prick.
Stupid, naive little prick.
Biggest mistake of his life. And how's that? You'll see.
And Chicago Carl is banned from ever actually getting to serve in the actual military. Both end up witnessing events that change their outlook of how they can be of service to their communities and still stay true to themselves.
Yeah.
In Manchester, when Frank is accused of a brutal crime, Carl works to prove his innocence and find out who committed the crime. We continuously see Carl care for those in need when others aren't paying attention. So when Carl feels like who he is doesn't match up with how he's been living, Carl searches for a sense of courage, and we start to see him go against the grain and enter the police academy in hopes of bettering the neighborhood.
Okay, so before he goes to Chicago, Carl, from what I understand, they're basically fundamentally the same human, and but they grew up in different environments. And I know I said that, but I that's what I'm getting at. Or
Chicago, Carl
Still
takes a
on
new
here.
approach to his days of mayhem. Instead of causing problems, Carl works to solve them. Whether it's helping the neighborhood watch out, detoxing local crackheads.
Sorry I gotta keep you down here, son. I understand why you did what you did, but you stole from a veteran, homie. It's a crime against America.
That's a
Actions have
crime against
consequences.
America.
Or protecting undocumented community members from ICE. Fuck ICE. Carl uses his time outside of work to make a difference in his area. After a neighbor is killed at a bus stop at night, Carl is drastically impacted and goes out of his way to draw attention to the problem to make sure the bus stop is safer.
Yeah, a woman got shot last night.
Really?
Yeah, guy came out of nowhere, shot her in cold blood.
Where?
Southside.
Oh, she white?
Black?
Young?
Old?
Celebrity?
Grandma?
You ready for me?
Yeah, but she was shot. The streetlights are out. He
Oh,
didn't
that's
care. You'd be the
crazy.
first to report on it.
Through this, we can see Carl really embrace his problem-solving abilities and join the police department with the right mindset from the jump.
Don't let that oath mess you up.
Sir?
You know, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. It's all bullshit. You just tell the judge what they need to hear to convict the bastard. I'm aware your academy application included several irregularities. Your age, your IQ score. But with the loss of so many officers to the Rona, the bosses are
Several.
willing to put you on the street. As long as you do the right
Damn.
thing to...
Well, what about my classroom work, sir? You know, state laws, criminal statutes. Kind of a slow reader.
Dead last. But hey, you don't have to be an Einstein to wear the blue. Busting
That's
heads is a man's
crazy
job,
work.
and you are a natural-born ass kicker.
Oh, shit. You guys bugged the house.
Frank, it's me.
What?
How did he not recognize Carl?
Oh, shit. My God, I thought you were a real cop.
I am a real cop.
Okay,
Does he have? I'm assuming he has dementia in this one.
This character now becoming officer of the law this year, but also doing it for the reasons of his community and wanting to be someone who's a protector of the community that he's grown and loved and is a part of. And I think that's where it's going to be a really interesting subject to narrate this year and throw Carl's in this position to where you would never expect to see him in this position at all. But now you'll start seeing him actually be the voice of opposition to what people honestly see people of the law in a lot of these situations. in
It
lower-income
is
neighborhoods
weird to
especially.
see.
Looking back at the
Yeah.
environments they became police in, Manchester Carl grew up in the 2000s in the UK when policing counterterrorism was increased after 9/11, which claimed the lives of 67 British citizens. Police were becoming more
That's
respected due to
crazy.
the news and mainstream propaganda that portrayed them in more heroic lights, increasing public confidence. Manchester Carl became a cop right before social media took off, and people
Mm-hmm.
started using their digital profiles to call out abuse in such an open way. However, we see Manchester Carl resist corruption when Jamie tries to pay him, showing Carl as a good cop. We can see how this is different from Chicago Carl, who grew up in the 2010s in the US when police corruption and crime was being highlighted via cell phones and social media. The idea of just some bad
Yeah.
cops versus a corrupt system started to become more mainstream in popular culture, with the Black Lives Matter movement reaching a peak in the early 2020s after the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, and many other black people as well. Chicago Carl was joining the police knowing that the system was corrupt.
The murder of George Floyd. Hold on, give me 1 second. Yeah, I guess I was misinformed. So, I mean, but I don't think it was just because of Kneeling. Okay, so doctor said he wouldn't have died. Okay. Mission by Floyd's family summarily concluded the homicide. Specific. Okay, so I'll put this on the screen for a second. You guys can pause it. But this is what that was the answer. So basically, I was just kind of misinformed about that subject. Yes.
Corrupt, but still believing after all he had survived, he'd be able to withstand becoming a bad cop. However, once he joined, he started seeing the different types of cops that worked at his station.
Never been shot, never shot at. You know why? I don't leave the car.
Ha! I don't leave the car.
Well, hey there, officer. Something I can get you? Ow, are you? What is wrong with you? Get off of me.
You know how much we make off of kickback and bribes from street dealers?
Isn't that wrong?
Paid for my boat.
It paid for my
That's
second
crazy.
first Brazilian butt lift.
We frame legal shops, we shut them down, we get more illegal weed back on the street. More illegal weed equals more dealers equals more cash in our pockets.
Realizing the problem was the system itself
Crazy
and how
work.
it promotes and uplifts the most corrupt cops, while penalizing the ones who attempt to call it out and try to change the system from within.
And you slammed my body up against my car.
I'm sorry about that.
Well, now I know how every black person in America feels.
Did you actually just say that?
Say what?
That you, a privileged piece of shit who evicts people from their apartments, can relate to how black people feel who are literally murdered at the hands of the police department.
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do relate to black.
No, stop. I was fine apologizing to your entitled ass to make this all go away, but I can't play this game anymore. I spent the last few months trying to figure out what kind of cop I want to be. And I'll say this, Sergeant Stamps, I haven't met a lot of good role models here. I want to be the type
I
of
mean,
cop
he
who
does
stands
have a
up for those
point,
who don't have a
especially
voice,
how it
the
was
lost,
showed
the
in the
forgotten.
show.
They deserve a fair share, even if that means rich pricks like you, Mr. McManus, have to pay the price in order to rebalance the scales of justice.
Again, I think he does make a good point with what he's seen, especially how police are portrayed in the show a lot of the time. And I don't know. I grew up in a small town, and I think there's good cops more often than not, and the bad cops just get shown a lot more and whatnot. Because stories of good cops does not make headlines. It's stories of if they do something wrong or something bad, yada yada. That's when headlines go. And so I think that's why cops have been misconstrued and their reputation shouldn't be what it is, but it is.
So with that being said, I take my apology back.
An abusive and predatory society cannot create moral and ethical police. It would defeat its purpose.
Your words brought a tear to my eye.
Is that so?
Yes, it was beautiful. But you made the wrong choice. Went against the department.
So you're gonna fire me?
Oh, no. I can't fire you. Union won't let me. But I can demote you.
Demote me?
That's crazy.
Welcome to your new job, Meter Maid Gallagher.
Meter
This
Maid
leaves Chicago Carl
Gallagher.
in a
Oh,
position
fuck.
where he ends up working as a meter maid, giving him the chance to ticket the rich and let the poor go off while
Okay,
not
I
having to
remember
be
this. Yep.
violent or hurt anyone in any physical manner. He knows he can't change the entire system, but I think he learns to appreciate being able to do his part.
No. Please. I'm right here.
Just doing my job, buddy.
How much is the ticket? I got furloughed last week and
Hey, shit for
I can't
brains. Better
afford-
not ticket my car. Seriously, have you nothing better to do than be a bottom-feeding scumbag who can't make a living any other way?
You know what? You can go, son.
What?
Yeah. Seriously, no ticket for you.
Seriously.
Calling him son, and I
I'm the
think
type of
Carl
cop who gives the
looked
poor man a
younger than
break
him.
Every single time, no questions asked.
Okay, great. Thank you.
However, as for you, I'm going to make people like you pay every single time. You rich fucks are going down.
Both Manchester and Chicago Carl were able to capture the ethical trials of boyhood while growing up in a poor neighborhood emphasizing the conflicting pathways and limited outcomes available for those left with few resources.
Okay, so at the end of the story, I think the differences between Carl UK and Carl US is just the environment and the culture and whatnot they grew up in slash around. But at the core of it, they are the same person. Um, and that's how we're gonna end off this video. And real quick, please like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Also, this was streamed on Kick at kick.tv/hologram. Bam. Hope to see you there. Deuces.